So we can see the whole screen. Now you have the whole series color, and you look, you divide it with the daylight is greater and the darkness is greater half of the year. And you certainly see there's the daylight greater half, the brighter colors, and the green to blue to burgundy in the darker colors, and the red to the yellow to the orange, the yellow to the green, and the daylight is greater. The spring and summer, fall, winter. We see them. It doesn't require, this isn't, I mean, getting to the exact moment, exact thing, we get down to this, but you can see this association of light to darkness, and in color, there's brighter colors and darker colors. The colors is the spectrum of light. So, yeah, you just have to fathom on it, reflect on it a little bit. All the things with colors we wear, the colors we do, the colors we like, the colors we don't like, the colors we'll wear, the colors we won't wear. It's all part of color psychology. I mean, it's in wearing colors, it's a very funny thing because we have, I got a green shirt, I got, can't see, goodness. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so we got a green shirt, a blue t-shirt on, but like we have our outer clothes in the color that we impress other people with, but we have our underclothes too. So someone can be totally black outside, but they could be wearing bright, colorful, wild colors underneath, and nobody would know unless they're close with them. So the idea of what colors we'll wear, what colors we like, what colors we would like up in a room, what colors. Some colors we would like the color, but we'd never wear them. Sometimes we would wear a color, but we wouldn't want it around us. So the giving and taking, and the giving and receiving, the putting out and the receiving of colors, this strong factor. I mean, essentially, the darker colors they wear, the more cautious and secure and responsible you're trying to be, and the less noticed, and the more controlled. Kind of like Capricorn, but more cautious. But if you have the daylight, is greater, you get the brighter colors. Anyone wearing yellows and oranges, they're not wintry signs. These are summery signs. Hey, notice me. Ta-da, I'm happy. I'm out here. It's light. Life is alive. It's colorful. So we have all the colors. We are all the colors. We just accentuate them differently. Our preferences, our choices, our Venus, how we choose things, what we think about, how it affects the way we think, how it affects our confidence, how it affects our feeling secure or not secure. It's totally interwoven with color. And if you can fathom the color and you get to see from the color, you can bypass the words even. But in how we work with color and the psychology of it, or the spirituality within it, is really seeing that this process is to show how the astrology and the color are interwoven with each other. Yeah, so this is the second category. So then we have our 4 seasons. We divide it, and for these two put together, daylight is increasing and nighttime is greater. There's the winter time. And below that on the left, we see the daylight is increasing, daylight is greater. That's the springtime. That's the phenomenon. It's not a theory. When daylight increases and daylight is greater, that is the springtime. When nighttime is increasing and daylight but daylight is greater, that's the summer. When darkness is increasing and darkness is greater, that's the fall. When darkness is greater and daylight is increasing, that's the winter. This is true whether it's northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, but the seasons are reversed. When it's light, when it's the longest day in one season, in one hemisphere, it's the longest night in the other. So this relationship of light to darkness is opposite. There's a reversal in it. But primarily, just if you're doing these, if you work with the charts and you're doing the categories and you're watching daylight increasing, daylight is greater, you have to, you can't, like, a lot of people in the southern hemisphere use northern hemisphere books, and they just keep the zodiac as if they're the same because they're not so much aware of it. But really, you have to reverse the signs. The tropical signs of the zodiac are the seasons of the year. They're aligned to the seasons of the year, and they reverse across the hemispheres. Okay. So this just shows the 4 points, and we put it in the circle. we've got this the 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall, and we see the blue to red, the cold to getting warmer, the winter, the hot red getting to orange to getting brighter and hotter during the springtime, and then the orange going to yellow at the yellow green through the summer. It's hot, heat, and getting a little cooler. Then you have the fall where the green is turning to the dark, to the blue, and it's going to the dark. It's getting darker and darker around it. I mean, drawing says it. Like, we can. You try and arrange it any other way? Like, you're trying to see where it fits. This is like that's like, what would you call it? It's just naturally aligned. It's got a natural line this way. Okay. So he takes this further. Each season is divided into 3 sections. 1, 2, 3 for the winter. Three signs, 3 divisions for the winter. And each one has a 1, 2, 3 effect. The first season, first month of the winter, first sign of the winter, second sign of the winter, third sign of the winter. We tend to think of months of the people don't know stores the first month, second month, third month of the winter, but it's really winter starts December 21st, northern hemisphere, 22nd, northern hemisphere. It fluctuates because of leap year, changed a little bit, and it can be that day out, and it's the opposite in the southern hemisphere. But it's very interesting, especially if you take the Judeo-Christian holidays or Christian holidays. You have the winter solstice, after the greatest darkness, after which the child of light is born as the light's increasing. Then you have Easter that happens after the spring equinox, when suddenly the day and night are equal. There's 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night. As soon as the sun sets, the full moon comes up. First full moon after that, there's 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of moonlight. And then the first Sunday of that, it's the Easter, the resurrection of the light. It's incredible. So as I thought this, when I learned this, I thought, wow, do they celebrate Easter the other half of the year in the southern hemisphere? It probably should be in touch with the actual energy. Really, they're tagging on to the northern hemisphere religious structure. And we just ran across that this week, this month, on the March 21st. It was March 21st. March 20th was the equinox, the spring equinox, and the full moon was later that day. So technically, Easter should have been the first Sunday, should have been the 24th of March. But the Christian authority that decides on the calendar has its own books that it relates to, and it says March 21st is the equinox, and it starts after that, so they made the Easter come a month later. But these are all northern hemisphere deductions about the light and the darkness. So it's interesting that most of the books and literacy has come from the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it's changing. But looking from the southern hemisphere, the seasons, the holidays of the churches are being done as if they were northern hemisphere alignments, and they become more mental cosmic than physical cosmic alive dynamic connections. So for someone in the northern hemisphere, it seems really strange that someone would have Christmas and the barbecue out in the backyard in the southern hemisphere. But someone is used to having that, they imagine what it'd be like for Christmas. But really, the symbolisms and the mysticism around these holidays are tied into the light and the darkness, and the birth of the light, of the child of light, the resurrection of light up to the longest day, where our Father is established in heaven, and so on. It builds around like this. Now, most of the Christian holidays are on the daylight increasing half of the year, the main ones, and the accentuating. I'm on a tangent here, but I'm going to finish it. They're accentuating the individuality and the freedom. But the Jewish holidays are a little more holistic, and they have the daylight increasing half, but they also have their significant holidays on the darkness increasing half, which is the togetherness and the group orientation half. So there's a more eclectic togetherness in Judaism in their rituals, whereas in Christianity it's a little bit more independent and messianic, or directing someone to be more independent, more individual, but maybe remember where they're coming from. Anyways, it's another big story that happens when you get around color and you start thinking it. These mystical and different ideas come in how we're aligned. So what's being said would be best with the color, or what would work with the color. It may have started like that, but it's not being applied like that all out in the world, and everybody's knowledge is all scrambled up like the Tower of Babel, and not everybody sees it clearly. To me, astrology was one of the things that starts putting these things in place clearly. But to me, astrology is how we're connected to nature. It is how our soul is connected to life and colors and life and experience and nature. It's not just an abstract symbol and theory that we can relate to and maybe read some meaning into. It's much more dynamic than that, to me. All kinds of ways to use a language, all kinds of ways people come into astrology, all different branches to the tree. But if you're getting to the core, if astrology isn't how you're connected to, how the soul is connected to life and experience and nature, and how to grow and become as much as you can within it and develop within that, if it's not that, what is it? It's just a theory, just a story. Well, that's much less. Anyways, again, I'm rambling a bit. Okay. Then again, you see the 3 signs, 1, 2, 3 divisions of the springtime: Aries, Taurus, Gemini. I just put the numbers in. So the structures is I just went through. You have the first sign of each season, the second sign, the third sign. The first sign starts the season, second sign consolidates it, third sign distributes the energy and diversifies it. So, okay, we'll just go back for a second. Okay, so the 1, 2, 3 of winter, the coldness of the earth of Capricorn starts off the winter, how cold it is. It moves into the coldness in the air. It moves into the air where it may be a little bit warmer, but the air can be pretty cold too. It's winter. But it gets, so the cold earth gets consolidated in the cold air and the ice and the snow and the freeze and the frost, the cold. And then it gets distributed as the water starts to melt, or as it starts to get lighter, the water starts melting a bit. It starts changing this cold rigidity. So you have the Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces associations to the seasons and to the colors.